Justin Trudeau's re-election music has everything a campaign song needs. A catchy drum beat, lyrics that remind us and inspire us that we, regular people, are capable of more. But given what's happening in the world right now, in a darker kind of way, it also feels like the perfect song for this moment.
There's no turning back, so raise it high. We can hold one hand up for tomorrow.
The Earth is already 1 degree hotter than it was before industrialization. Last year, a report from the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change told us that we have until just 2030 to cut global emissions in half to limit temperature rise to 1.5 degrees. If 1.5 degrees becomes 2 degrees, more than twice as many people will be regularly exposed to extreme heat conditions, and we risk losing an additional 5 to 10% of the world's permafrost, which holds billions more tons of greenhouse gases. But you don't need to be a climate scientist to know that something is wrong. In New Brunswick, it means more intense flooding. On PEI, it looks like coastal erosion. In Nova Scotia, Hurricane Dorian showed us just how unprepared we are for the more extreme weather that climate change will trigger. On a hot planet, there will be people all over the world for whom it becomes too hot or too wet to live in the places they now call home. And they'll be looking for new ones at a time when the politics of countries with cooler climates like Canada and the US are polarized on immigration issues. Canada is a single country, and while we are not the world's largest emitter of carbon, as an oil-producing nation, we are in the top 10. We have agreed to reduce our emissions significantly under the Paris Accord, but our government doesn't have a plan that will reach those targets, or the more aggressive targets scientists tell us we will need to reach to keep warming to 1.5 degrees. There's no way we can address the climate crisis as a country without a prime minister that commits to even more aggressive reductions for Canada, and one who encourages other countries to do the same. And while Trudeau is a voice for climate action globally, he also says things like this.
No country would find 173 billion barrels of oil in the ground and just leave them there.
We know the oil and gas sectors make up the largest source of emissions for Canada, and if all we did was shut down the entire oil and gas industry, we'd still miss our Paris commitments. The Liberal climate plan isn't the worst climate plan the country has ever had. It's the best. But it depends on continuing to develop the oil and gas industry.
This is where I'm not following you. You say you're going to fight climate change by producing more oil?
No. We're not talking about any more. We're talking about actually exporting it more efficiently, where we'll actually get a better price that will allow us to invest more in the transition. We're going to be putting a price on pollution, and we are going to move forward in a way that a lot of people choose to make fun of by saying, oh, you can't do both at the same time.
Trudeau's plan feels a lot like the plan you get when you ask the question, how close can we fly to the sun without getting burnt? But you just have to look at the forests in BC, Alberta, and California to know that we're already burning. So the questions we need to ask are, how far away do we need to get to minimize the damage, and how quickly can we get there without causing more harm? We have other options in this election. 2 of them, the NDP and the Greens, are proposing plans for the climate that are more aggressive than the Liberals. But neither of those parties' leaders believe they can become prime minister in this election. They've said so. Andrew Scheer's plan would involve an even greater level of emissions than Justin Trudeau's. So the best case scenario for reducing carbon emissions as quickly as possible after this election probably still involves Justin Trudeau remaining prime minister.
We're on our way to getting 3 new pipeline projects underway, which will help connect Canada's oil patch with energy markets around the world.
But Canadians do not elect a prime minister. We elect a parliament. And the best case scenario for the climate is for the Liberals not to occupy a majority of seats in that parliament. Otherwise, Trudeau's power and our chances at a livable future will go unchecked. But even in a minority parliament, there are tricks a prime minister can use to avoid facing parliament and delay triggering another election, in order to, say, make sure a certain pipeline gets built. It matters who you vote for, but voting isn't enough. There are 3 kinds of patriots, according to the late William Sloane Coffin. 2 bad, 1 good. The bad are the uncritical lovers, and the loveless critics. Good patriots carry on a lover's quarrel with their country. All Canadian prime ministers have had plenty of loveless critics, but no prime minister has received the same level of uncritical love as Trudeau. Liberal MPs could wield power over him collectively if they wanted to, on this or on any issue, but there's no evidence that they do. For most Liberal MPs, they seem to have nothing but positive things to say about him, and some of them get really into it.
the man of the hour, our Prime Minister, the Right Honourable Justin Trudeau! Trudeau, 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 that's it! Trudeau, Trudeau, Trudeau! Trudeau, Trudeau, Trudeau! Trudeau! Trudeau, Trudeau! Wow!
But the uncritical love doesn't just come from the Liberal establishment. It comes from us. And it's always seemed like he loves being loved.
Hi, can we also get a selfie?
For sure.
As long as that love doesn't get critical.
Are you planning on implementing MTRIP? Absolutely, yes.
Whether he's shaking hands at a cafe in Halifax or speaking in Parliament, Justin Trudeau is never far from the protective embrace of uncritical lovers. Meanwhile, the planet is getting hotter, and the window of opportunity we have to keep it cool is shrinking. Justin Trudeau is not the best person for the job of tackling climate change, but it seems like he's our best shot. In 2015, he liked to remind his supporters that better was always possible. Now it's 2019, and we're almost out of time. Trudeau is going to need constant reminders, especially from uncritical lovers, that when it comes to climate change, better is not just possible, it's critical.
There's no turning back, so